Oh my God.
So every week there's a new episode of Quirky and how they do it and who's the person they're going to pick. And it's a pretty cool concept. So you're absolutely right. You can actually revolutionize your business by actually partnering with your audience to help create products that can be rapidly tested, developed, and deployed with a much higher success rate, because all those 250,000 people, a huge percentage of them buy the products they were integral in creating. And again, you've got a built-in audience. You command a lot of power in the marketplace with that many people, and overnight you can have a best-selling product on Amazon if you get everybody to buy on the same day. So there's definitely the possibilities of collaborating with your audience to create a better product, to create content themselves, and all they need is a little guidance and structure, and it can be very successful.
Or a clothesline and a couple of pegs. I love
Well,
that.
you know what?
That's fantastic.
Amazingly, sometimes the most simple ideas lead to the biggest changes within an organization. And I think, it doesn't have to be digital only. Sometimes, a very simple idea like Ben's, clothesline and some pieces of paper at a trade show, really make a big difference in the way you think about your audience and the customers you serve.
Well,
Um,
that's true. I've got a cartoonist that I really love. Hugh. He has a cartoon called Gap Void. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it,
mhm.
but yeah. Well,
Yeah,
he
sure.
he had a T-shirt that he wanted to produce, and it was something like, I love what I do. I'm really good at what I do, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was really nice, and he has some awesome cartoons. Anyway, he had one that he wanted to actually commission, so he just went out to everyone and said, "Look, if I get 25 orders or more, I'll do it." And so, he got something like 3,000 orders straight away.
Yep.
And it was like, oh my God. And it's because we loved his art. And so now he's taken that from just being t shirts to lots of other things. But we get to have a little piece of his humour, which I just think is such a clever idea. And,
Mm.
like it's a pretty simple idea. I don't know if he thought it would work or not, but now it's another side to his business. And good on him. I mean, it's sort of
Yeah.
leveraging all of these people out there were following him and really enjoyed his humour. It's another way for us to have that spread. So
Well, I mean,
it's quite nice.
I think if you take a content first approach to your business, just in general, the content can open up wide opportunities for new revenue streams if you really think about, smart differentiated content that reflects the values of your brand. Whether you're a cartoonist or not, even if you run a business with the idea that you could actually create a content product long term, you can actually see revenue from that. And there are people that do a very good job at kind of parlaying their online content expertise into information products that drive real dollar value, let alone sales for their business. And there's kind of incremental revenue there.
Yeah.
Some people are, offering online training courses, or some are selling books, like me. But there's all sorts of wonderful ways you can turn, great content into a real revenue stream. And Quirky has done it in the sense that they built a product design business, but on top of that, they built a TV show that now is, netting them revenue each week. So it's pretty amazing.
We need one of those. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
how do you I guess some businesses might be listening and thinking, well, there's only one of me, but I've got a lot of employees that, touch the consumer that could participate in this. Have you ever seen examples of employees actually being involved in the brandscaping or the content creating that's worked well? And is there any sort of issues in letting, everyone touch the content creation?
I um, I think as an employer today, your biggest opportunity is to have your employees create content. Take the easy idea that everyone has an audience. It means that every employee you have has friends on Facebook. They have a LinkedIn account with a bunch of LinkedIn contacts, whether it's one or 1,000, it doesn't matter. They may even be on Twitter with 5 followers or 5,000 followers. Again, it doesn't matter. But each one of those people out there are potential clients or customers for your business. And the more you harness the power of your employees to create content that's then distributed to the audience, their audience, as well as yours, the bigger you grow your business and grow the success of the employees you've got. And there are great examples. In fact, there's a B2B company called Indium, Indium. Indium.
Mm-hmm.
No, Indium. Sorry,
That's okay.
Indium.com. Um, and it's the most boring business in the world. They sell soldering material for for electronics, right? Like it doesn't seem like any good content could come of this.
Yeah.
But what they did was they focused on asking their engineers in very specific verticals to write about their engineering expertise and the research that they had uncovered, whether it was from a question from a client, right? A customer might call the engineer in charge of their solar division and say, hey, what's the best capacitor for solar energy? And he'd have to go research it and then write it up and put it up as a blog post. And Indium grew their business hugely. They have 18 blogs today written by 18 different people. They even hired a Japanese engineer so that they could write Japanese articles for the Japanese manufacturing industry. And they even rebranded their whole company around the success of that engineer, kind of engineer to engineer concept. And now their tagline, I think, is from one engineer to another. And on every blog post, it has the phone number of the engineer that created the blog post and an invitation to email them or connect with them on LinkedIn and ask more questions. And the business has grown hugely as a result of this, something like 500 times in the last 4 years.
Wow.
So the more you enlist your employees to create and share the content that and their expertise, the more successful you'll be. I really believe that.
I do too. I think it's so dependent on the control that the CEO gives to their employees. Do you know what I mean? And you can feel it in the culture, whether it's an open culture and whether it hangs together around, a common vision and they're all aligned with their values, or whether it's tightly held and there's no chance of that ever happening. And hopefully they're getting the message.
Well, I think the ones that don't will see an evolution in their business long term that will make it necessary to really start to embrace the more open approach to generating and distributing content. I mean, look, if you're hiring employees who are having interactions with your customers on a regular basis outside of the online world, you already trust them enough to do that. What's the problem, and why aren't you taking advantage of the opportunity to scale their advice and expertise? This isn't a new idea either. In fact, Defiance was a milk company. They were selling powdered milk. They're Australian, actually. The guy whose name is Nate Johnson. He started Defiance Milk, and he was having a really hard time selling this powdered milk because he was competing with 400 other powdered milk brands. So what he started to do was actually answer parents' questions about raising their kids, because he started getting letters every week. And he hired a nurse named Nurse Kennedy, and she hired 11 other nurses to keep up with the demand, replying to these letters about how to raise your baby. And he ended up publishing a book called The Baby Book, and he distributed about 1 million copies a year up until the 70s, and it was actually called the Glaxo Baby Book. Defiance Milk became GlaxoSmithKline, the third largest pharmaceutical company in the world, and it all started by just hiring a bunch of nurses and inviting them to answer any question related to the concerns of raising a baby. And that's that kind of idea, that you've got to use your internal expertise to help your customers no matter what, is one that's been around forever. So CEOs that don't buy into it, it's not like they're afraid of social media. They're just kind of ignoring, I think, a simple fact in the marketing world that that's good business.
Absolutely. Does it just come back to being helpful?
Well, being helpful is good business as well, but I think it's deeper than that. It's especially in the digital world, being helpful. There are lots and lots of businesses that have great customer service, but they have no ability to scale that and then use it to their benefit if they're not sharing that information online. If you think about Marcus Sheridan, do you know him, the sales line?
Yeah.
And Marcus, basically took his pool business from a small little business to a big business by just answering customer questions and scaling that in the online world. He'd answer those questions